Hey all, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts and I hope you're doing okay. Now a couple of weeks ago, or last week even, I made a jar snow shaker or a snow globe in a jar. And it did occur to me there must be other ways to make this kind of thing, not necessarily in a jar mould. So as last year I made some snow globes and people did comment that they didn't have a lathe or it might have been too complicated for them. So I am still trying to make things easier. So let's have a look how I got on with making an easy snow globe, albeit not a globe. So I decided to use the scale mode. I know it's not Halloween anymore, but I do like this Let's Resin skull mold and it's so big, it's great. I'm going to use some of Emma's colours. This is Nether and her link will be in the description box below. She's the tiny turner. I'm going to colour part of this mould but not all of it. Now these colours are very vibrant and they really do well even if they don't have black behind them. So the plan is to colour part of this mould but to leave the head or top part of the skull completely clear. I'm going to be putting a black base in this and Emma's colours are really good at shining through even if there's no black behind it. They really are vibrant colours. They are at the high end of the scale, but boy they are good. I don't get paid for saying this. I genuinely believe they are magnificent. So the plan is to colour just up to basically the neck area and the black will then sit underneath that. Now this is actually the second one I've made of these. The first one I lost the footage. I had a bit of an issue with footage a few weeks ago and I lost the footage. So all I managed to retain was the demolding. So this is the second attempt. Usually I show you the first attempt, but I had no option. I had to do it again. So luckily for me, I could correct all the mistakes I made in the first one, or most of them anyway. So once I had coloured everything I wanted to, then it was time to clean up the rest of the mould. Now a baby wipe does do a great job at this. I must admit most of the mould could be cleaned with a baby wipe. Once I'd completed what I could with a baby wipe, then it was on to a cotton bud just to clean up the fine lines. It does look weird when it's inside out, doesn't it? It doesn't look like a skull at all. It looks like some kind of alien. Once I was happy that it was completely cleaned up, then I decided to take some of the colour off of the teeth. That is so that the black behind it could actually show through and it didn't look so standard one colour. Cleaned up the little bits that I'd accidentally taken off and it was ready to turn it inside out. Now, as usual with any mould that's 3D, you turn inside out, some of the colour will go onto the mould itself. So I'm going to have to be careful and use a cotton bud and take off the little bits that I've accidentally smeared. Then once I've done that, I'm going to touch up the colour that has rubbed off from turning it in the right way. These are little liquid container jars that are designed for alcohol to be hung on a Christmas tree. And I thought they would be ideal to use in a shaker. I'm going to use some Let's Resin UV resin and just put it on the base of the little container so that it rounds the edge. I don't want it to be catching any air when I cast it in resin. And hopefully that is mistake one that I did on the very first skull that I made averted. Now I'm sure you can get jars without flat bottoms, but I had ones with a flat indented bottom, so I wanted to flatten it. Now it doesn't stand upright, so I've put it on a little tub to hold it upright and I'm going to fill it with lots of different glitters. I have Hemway glitter, I have glitter from Yvonne at Resin Supplies then, and I absolutely love them. And these holographic snowflake pieces are adorable. Resin Supplies then is a little Facebook group here in the UK, and they sell everything you could possibly want to do with resin, and they are really kind and a joy to be in, and most people can answer questions for you too. So I'm filling up this jar with these little pieces to create a snow shaker. I'm making sure I'm putting an array of different colours in because I want this to be bright and colourful. You could put any little trinkets or pieces in your snow globe, but I would avoid ultra fine glitter. It tends to clump. And yes, Yvonne named the glitter after me. She's called it Wendy and it's purple. That is just fantastic. Thanks, Yvonne. These little gold pieces are like chunky diamonds. I don't know where I got those from, probably eBay back in the day. I'm going to use a mix of 50-50 distilled water and vegetable glycerine. I like this mix. Some people use baby oil and they swear by that. But whatever you fill it with, you need it to be kind of gloopy, not just distilled water. I like to put in some things that float and some things that sink so that they can shift themselves round when you're shaking it, and some will be at the bottom and some will be at the top and some will even be in the middle. I'm using a spoon just to try and mix them down because some of them float a little bit too much for me. Now this was a mistake that I did this time that I didn't do the first time I made the skull. I took the ring off the cap and I don't know why I did that. I ended up having to replace it with something else. Now this is another thing that I'm correcting from the first mistake. I am going to secure the lid onto the bottle with some UV resin. With the first one I made, I figured as it was a jar that was meant to contain alcohol, it would be waterproof. But it did go in my pressure pot, and the pressure pot builds up pressure. The pressure of the water was pushed out of the lid. So this time I thought I would use some UV resin around the seal of the jar, cure it in my Let's Resin two-sided baby blue 5-minute lamp. I do love this lamp. Hopefully that should stop the pressure of the water coming out while it's curing. So I very carefully put the bottle into the mould, trying not to dislodge any of my mica dust. I did have to touch up a couple of areas, but nothing too dramatic. So I'm going to be using Let's Resin epoxy resin for this, and I have a discount code which is on the screen. It's also in the description box below. And this is where I realised I needed the ring that I'd taken off, because I don't want the bottle to sit right up against the base of the skull. I need to elevate it so it's kind of in the middle. I also wanted the resin to go underneath the bottle, so I needed to lift it up and it wouldn't sit straight. So I decided to replace the bit that I should have left in there with a piece of wire so that I could elevate it with a stick. It was a little fiddly, but it did work. So a bit of wire that I wrapped around itself, just big enough so that when I put a stick through it, it would lift it up so it wasn't sitting on the bottom. Perfect. But I filled up with resin to just under the lip of the cap. And I did put this in my pressure pot, as I said before, just so that it was absolutely crystal clear. You see, I needed the cap to be in black resin that is going to go next, because I don't want to see it has a silver cap. It'd be great if I had a clear see-through cap, but I don't. So you may have seen last week I did a little unboxing video at the beginning of the video, and I showed you I had this black 2-part epoxy resin from Let's Resin, which is now available. Well, it's available in America, and I am so excited that I'm getting to try this out. Apparently it cures in the same time as normal 2-part epoxy resin, it's just black. So I'm going to fill up the entire base of this mould in the black resin. Now the first time I made the skull, I also made a light bulb in the same way and an egg in the same way. I managed to get hold of the demolding for the light bulb. I don't know what happened to the egg. Like I said, I had issues at the time. I don't know where everything went. Anyway, this is a demolding of the light bulb that I made. And once I'd used isopropyl alcohol, it slips out of the mould really easily. And this is where you can see that I'd put the clear resin too high so that you could see the silver edge of the cap. That taught me a lesson, but it is rather cool in a light bulb mould as well. Now you can't actually use it as a light bulb because the light wouldn't shine through the black base unless I put a hollow middle. But still, I do like it. So I did manage to salvage the demolding of the first skull that I made. So I thought I'd share it with you because that was actually meant to be the video. And I thought I'd give you some nice demolding sculptures too. Beautiful, love that sound. So it came out really quite well. I love that blue colour. And this is where I can see that I've got a bubble right at the top that was from the base of the jar that I put inside. So that hopefully is corrected this time. Also, I didn't put the blue right the way around the back. I only covered the front part of the face. And I thought the black stark line was not so appealing. But still, I was happy with the way it came out. So this is today's skull, the second attempt. And again, I left in some sounds for you. So how did this one fare? Well, the bubble on the top has gone, although you can still see the base of the bottle. There is a little bit of air left in the bottle, which is fine. I like the fact that the colour of the blue goes right the way around that back of the skull. I think that is definitely more appealing. And I also like the fact that you can see the glitter through the eye sockets. I just think that's so cool. And yeah, I nearly drop it, which is typical. But I really enjoyed this, even though I did it twice. I learned from the first one and I made the second one slightly different. The egg that you didn't see at all is this one that turned out really quite nice. But as with the first skull, it did have a bubble on the top of the bottle. And the light bulb, even though it has flaws, is really pretty. But I absolutely love the skulls. I mean, I love the mould anyway, but with the glitter swirling around the back, I just love them. I just think they're so pretty. And they're not just snow globes. They could be for any time of the year. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you've got something out of it. Come back and see me next week because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week. Happy crafting and bye for now.